And joining us now is Rhode Island golf star Mike Hamilton to preview the upcoming Gasparilla tournament down in Florida next week. We have three players in it. Was four, but you unfortunately had to withdraw. But Gasparilla next week, big tournament. It's a big amateur tournament, one that we'll be covering, albeit from afar. Excited to get your insight, but just talk about just the tournament in general. What makes it so special? Why is it a big deal other than the field, obviously, but what's so big about this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, bummed to miss out this year. Just I withdrew a couple weeks ago. I'm having some back issues, so I'm trying to take it easy this winter. I mean, probably could have roughed it out, but the time you got to kind of put into practice for that one is tough, especially coming out of not I literally have not played a round of golf since the McCormick shootout back in October. So it's been 4 or 5 months now without really playing any golf. So you know. But in terms of that tournament, I mean, the field is great. I mean, it's got basically the top, I would say, 100 or so mid-ams in the country. But also too, it's kind of the kickoff of the year for a lot of guys. So, I mean, the competitive schedule starts to get a little bit, busier over the next, I would say, month or two. I mean, you got this one, you've got the Azalea, some other events down in Florida, Terracotta coming up in April. And then obviously you start to kick off with USGA stuff with like the US Open qualifying in early May and whatnot. So this is a good kickoff. So a lot of guys are, hungry to play in it. Cool thing too with the Gasparilla is it's not just Rhode Island guys. They, Mass and Connecticut guys get in and they really do try to represent every state possible. So, every year the mid-am champion from their state gets in. So obviously, it's good that Larry's able to make it this year. I know last year he wasn't able to, and
Mhm.
I know he's excited to play this year, so it's great.
Yeah, excuse me. I interviewed Larry a few weeks ago. He was talking about how last year he was in like Vancouver or something for work, and he wasn't going to be able to make it all the way back or something along those lines. And now he's all pumped up to be playing this year. For us guys that are playing that play in the Northeast, obviously you're going down to Florida where these guys play year round essentially. And coming from other places that play year round as well. What are the challenges for guys like? You if you were playing it, and Bobby, and everybody else from New England as well. What are some of the challenges going down there and trying to put some holes together, kind of with little to no practice?
Yeah, the three hardest things to me is like one, hitting off real grass, right, and a real surface for the first time. I mean, we're lucky enough now where we're all able to hit balls indoors if we want to, but obviously hitting off real grass is one. Two is the weather, just dealing with, last year it was like mid to high 80s. I think by, the second day or practice round, I was kind of tired. Like it sounds terrible, but it's the heat will take, and will bother you because you're not used to it. You're coming out of 30, 35-degree weather if you're lucky, and the wind and stuff like that. You're hitting balls indoors, you're not thinking about wind at all. And then all of a sudden you got to go down to Florida and it can blow 15, 20 miles per hour, and that makes a difference. And then I think the last thing is just short game. I mean, you really can't practice that. And I was talking to Larry about that yesterday. I said, if you're going to do anything in the couple days leading up, I mean, obviously you need to see the golf course, but spend some time, in the chipping area and putting because the greens are really, really quick and they're grainy. So there's some things that you don't see up here, even if you were in good shape to play golf right now. But obviously, having not played anything outdoors, it's really tricky, hitting off surfaces that you're not used to on top of everything. So I think those are probably the hardest things about it. And you haven't played a competitive round of golf in 4 or 5 months, like the nerves will get to you a little bit. And it's one of those courses too where it's 6,300 yards on the card, which I think throws a lot of people off, in terms of, guys not shooting 4, 5, 6, 7 under. But every shot is pretty tight, so even in the holes that are in the middle of the golf course, they're tree lined fairways. So even though you're not going to lose a golf ball, you definitely need to keep it, kind of in between the buoys, so to speak. So that part of it too, getting the nerves out and trusting what you've been doing is really tough too.
Talk about the course a little bit. It's called, I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Palma Ceia Golf
You
and
got it
Country
right.
Club.
Palmacia. Yep.
Oh, that was close. Just talk about the course a little bit. I know you hinted at it just now, but difficult holes, the challenges of the course. Again, I know you just hinted at it a little bit, but just for people that don't know anything about it, what's the course like?
Yeah, I mean, it's so unique in the sense that it's it's got every Donald Ross um signature you could think of. Almost every green is a turtle back, meaning it runs off on all four sides. The bunkers are very, very well placed. I mean, to the point where some of them just, run right into the greens themselves. And, you know, there's so many cool different looks on every hole. I mean, you may have three or four wedges in a row on into par fours, but they're all going to be different. So I think like, a good example of that is like I'm trying to remember the holes. One, two, three. So like five. Five is this little 320-yard par four dogleg left, right? Your position off the tee is so important because if you short side yourself, even from 100 yards away, there's really no way to get at the pin. Problem is, if you also want to go at that pin, or you don't want to go at that pin, you're taking on other issues like, OB to the left or bunker to the left. Um, I think 18 is maybe my favorite hole in the country. Like it's one of the coolest
In the
holes.
country, in the country, really? Holy cow.
It's top 10 for me. I mean,
All right, all
it's
right.
like a 485-yard par five with OB left, and you can hit your tee shot 100 yards out to the right if you really want to. There's another hole there. However, if you do that, your second shot has OB about 15 yards, not even 10 yards off the green to the left, and the clubhouse is there. There's grandstands behind the green where there's hundreds of people there watching and drinking. And there's a pond short right and all the way around the back of the green. So you'll see guys with 200 yards in that lay up because they're just petrified of either killing someone in the clubhouse or killing someone in the grandstands or dunking one in the water. But if you do go for it in two, you can make eagle. It's only 480 yards. Like it's not, there's not a ton there, but you can make a big number really fast. Like there's a lot of that stuff out there where
What was your strategy when you play it?
lay up.
Lay up?
Actually, the first day I tried to hit it, I remember very vividly. I tried to hit one up the right and I pulled it, and there's a pot bunker in the middle of the fairway about 300 yards out, and I was dead center of that. So I had to chip out to about 100 yards, but then now you got a 100-yard wedge shot with all those things we talked about, and you're thinking about either chunking it into the water or sculling it off someone in the stands. So it's not the most ideal hole to have in the middle of February, but it's a fun hole. I think it's awesome. I mean, and there's like three or four other holes that are just like that out there where it really is like risk reward. You got to think your way around and you got to be precise. Like I feel like if this tournament was in June, the scores would be a lot better. But then you throw us out there in the middle of February, even for the guys down in Florida, it's a little bit of a shock.
If there were no grandstands to worry about, would it be a green light hole every time?
I think so, yeah. I mean, also too, don't forget there's OB that runs up the entire left side of the hole and it's about 10 yards off the fairway. So every ounce of you is trying not to hit it left the entire hole, but there's just as much trouble right. So just a really cool hole, yeah.
That's awesome. You talk about all the people watching. You've told me this before about it. That's kind of like a party atmosphere. Party is maybe a strong word.
No, it's a party. It's a legit
It's
party.
party atmosphere. So what is? I mean, that's like is that like Waste Management Phoenix Open, like to the on minor league level of the
Yeah.
Management Phoenix Open.
Yeah,
What is that? What is that like to be? Because you people come out and watch you guys here, obviously, but it's probably not like that. No offense to anybody, but it's probably not like it is down there. So what is that like? How do you deal with it? Do you just try to ignore it? Do you feed into the kind of the
no,
party? I mean, it is February, so you know.
you have to embrace it. I mean, the one thing that's nice is it's open bar for us the entire time.
Oh, there you go.
So you can,
I'm in. Sign me up. I'm playing next year.
yeah, there's from the player's perspective, like that's probably one of the best events in terms of how they treat you. I mean, the membership embraces it. They have a massive membership. I think all in they've got almost 1,000 members. So I would say it feels like on the Saturday there's literally 1,000 people, maybe more out there. Now, obviously, they're gonna follow those final groups for the most part, but even on like Thursday afternoon or especially Friday afternoon, there's a couple hundred people around the green and around the 10th tee. Everything is so condensed at that golf course. So, like you're teeing off on 10, and you got people clapping on the green on 18, and you got 2 jugs of jungle juice behind you on the 10th tee where the members are just pouring themselves drinks. So that part of it is really cool. Like, I mean, you're hitting a tee shot on 10 and some guy's getting a beer 5 feet from you talking to the bartender, and you just got to hit your golf shot. Like, it's fun for us though. None of us are taking it too serious to the point where we're like, hey, quiet down. Like, I gotta say, like, I laughed at watching Zach Johnson last weekend. It's like, dude, you're getting paid millions of dollars. Deal with it. If you don't want to deal with it, don't play the event, and it's the same thing for us. Like, if anyone is going to complain, they will never be invited back to the Gasparilla again. And I kind of like that. If you're not willing to have a little bit of fun there, interact with the membership. If you're there just to play golf and you walk out the door, you will not get invited back there. I mean, it's a lot of it is socializing with the members and some of the other folks that come and watch it. And it's a really good place for us to meet guys. I mean, there's guys that I've met in that tournament that I still stay in touch with. Even some of the local guys, like Fitz played in it last year, from Massachusetts. And, I didn't know who he was. I mean, I knew he won the Mid-Am, but otherwise I may not have gotten a chance to meet him, and we still stay in contact. I think I met Nick Macario for the first time out there, had dinner with him last year when we were there. And some of the other guys from Mass, like Ricky Stimmitz. So it's an awesome spot to meet people. So that's half the fun of it.
You probably meet people from all over the country and the world, right? I mean, I
Yeah, yeah.
don't mean the world,
Tons.
but well, certainly the country.
Yeah,
I,
and it's a really cool, like, it's a really cool atmosphere. It's like it's kind of encouraged. So that part of it is definitely a big part of the tournament itself. So
right, so we have Larry, Bobby, and Tyler going down there.
hmm
You talk about the challenges of it. Obviously, they're obviously all great players like yourself.
hmm
A great finish for them, short of winning. A great finish would be what? Are they like to top 20, like a good finish? I mean, what would you consider kind of a good finish? Short of obviously winning the tournament, we understand. Obviously, we're on way,
yeah,
but
yeah. I
short of
mean,
that, what's a good finish for kind of the Rhode Island guys going down there?
I don't really think they should think about it that way. I mean, Bobby finished second a couple of years ago, and
That's
then
right, I remember that.
last year missed the cut. Like, it's one of those tournaments where it's, first of all, it's a shotgun. It's unique in the sense it's shotgun the first 2 days. So, the first day, if you go out at 1:30, the second day you're going to go out at 8:30 in the morning, right? So almost every year, one grouping gets a better draw in terms of weather, right? I remember I played in it 3 years ago. I got the afternoon morning wave. The first day in the morning was, there was no wind. By the afternoon, it was blowing 20. We had to turn around the next morning and it was 45 degrees and blowing. Now, the guys in the afternoon also dealt with the cold and the wind, but they also got one round where it was 75, 80 degrees with not even a breeze. So, taking advantage of that, like, you can't hold yourself too upset when, you catch the bad end of the draw. And if you don't catch a bad end, I mean, for the Rhode Island guys, just enjoy it. It's not about where you finish. I mean, honestly, I think making the cut is an accomplishment in its own, and seeing where it goes from there. But there's no reason why any of those three guys can't win the tournament either. I mean, all three of them are good enough players, and I mean, ironically, they all have, in my opinion, different strengths and weaknesses to their game as far as I've seen playing with them. And none of that golf course doesn't limit anyone. Like, Tyler legitimately can drive 4 or 5 of those greens if he's willing to try it. Now, are you going to be comfortable doing that in, February? Maybe not. But if he does, I mean, he could shoot 63, 64 easily out there. So you never know. And like I said, Bobby finished second a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
And I think Larry, I mean, for obviously, his goal is to make the cut, I'm sure, but you just never know. I mean, he's he undersells himself a lot. I mean, he's back-to-back Rhode Island Mid-Am champion, so it's not like he's a really good player. So he's got to give himself some credit there.
Yeah, it should be fun to follow. We'll have the scoring links and everything. One more on this, and then I want to get your thoughts on two other things. Then I'll let you get back to your life. Uh, the Gasparilla, we talked about how it's a big amateur tournament. of all the tournaments that you've played in, I mean, where would you, this is kind of a hard question, I'm putting you on the spot, but short of obviously the US Amateur, right? Where would the Gasparilla rank as far as a top amateur, mid-amateur tournament? I mean, is it like, I mean, there's the Gasparilla, there's the Devil's Elbow, which is a new one I've heard of this year. There's the Terracotta, like you mentioned. Obviously, you have the Northeast Dams and those kind of tournaments. So where would you kind of rank? And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but where would you kind of rank the Gasparilla as far as kind of
So
tournament status, I guess?
yeah, I mean, like the USGA is always going to sit at the top, like the
Right,
US
of
Am,
course.
the US Mid Am, right? I
Right, of
think
course.
that goes without saying.
Yep.
But also those tournaments have a different feel to them. They're very, very serious, right?
Very
There's a
serious.
lot on
Very
there's a
serious.
lot on the line. Like the US Mid Am every year, the winner gets into the Masters, right?
Right.
The winner of the Gasparilla is not getting into the Masters, but the Gasparilla is a better golf tournament. It's more fun, right? It's way more enjoyable. I think the Gasparilla is probably the best mid-am event I've played in. Now, obviously, I think as you get into looking at the other mid-am events that I've not played in, like the Crump Cup at Pine Valley or the Coleman at Seminole, right? Now you're talking about playing literally top 10 golf courses in the world or the number one golf course in the world. I'm sure those events kind of surpass it. But for me, the Gasparilla is the best mid-am event. I mean, in terms of other stuff I've played in, the Terracotta is unbelievable. I mean, it's the best food I've ever had in a tournament. The golf course is the best manicured golf course I've ever seen. Naples National is, they literally cut their tee boxes with mowers that cut greens. And I mean, the Northeast Dam is still the top for me. Like, even though it's a local, I mean, I think that's the best run event that I've ever done. But in terms of mid-am, the Gasparilla is number one. I mean, it's so much fun. That's why I'm bummed I'm missing it this year, but also like I'm also a little bit relieved I don't have to hit some of the shots that place requires until February. Like I said, you can hit off mats all winter, but the second you're on a tight lie off Bermuda, and yeah, it's not always enjoyable. So